Episode 2, Carrot. Carrot wondered a great many thoughts. So many, he surprised himself. He never thought of himself as very intelligent, and he typically allotted that to his lack of latent curiosity. Though he stood there, curious. He had followed the voice in his head for the past year, the voice that told him to journey west, the voice that gave him the power to create food and water for those in need he met along the way, the voice that made him produce food and water for those in need. He had lost track of the days, but he left the kingdom of Baudeleon in the east side of the continent nearly a year ago. At first, the voice simply said, "Venture west." But as time went on, he learned to do more than just listen to the voice. He was far from having conversations with it, but he was able to learn more about what he was doing. After all this time, he was proud to learn that he was venturing west to meet two adventurers whom he would protect and help. Yes, that was all he could gain. But today he learned more. As he stood in front of the still undead corpse that lay at his feet and the tall, intimidating tiefling, the voice spoke. "It is them." He thought his response as he always did. The devil and corpse? No. "The two beyond on the porch," the voice responded. Carrot was so surprised that the voice responded that instead of looking at the individuals of interest, he turned his attention inward. "Wait, you can hear me? We can talk?" He was met with no response and immediately understood. A conversation is not in the nature of their relationship. The response was only a necessary clarification. "Probably because I need everything spelled out for me," he thought to himself in his typical self-deprecating tone. Then, once again, the large, scary tiefling with a bloody sword spoke. "I said, who the hell are you?" Yes, he was curious now. So many questions, and yet he understood in this moment. His curiosity was last in line. "I am Carrot. I have been sent on a divine quest to help in the journeys of He stumbled for a moment. "In the journeys of 3 adventurers who are destined for something that must be so great, because I have not been given any of the details." "He's a cleric, Ronus, of Benevos, right?" The Dragonborn butted in. "I recognize your holy symbol." He pointed at the hair that was embroidered faintly into the cloak. "Aye, that is correct." Carrot hadn't known the name yet. He was not a studied cleric after all. He was chosen. Chosen for this, he supposed. "If you are here to help, then you can start with healing Dreddfire, Cleric." Carrot could tell by the tiefling's tone that he did not believe that Carrot would or could perform the healing spell. But without hesitation he responded, "I am happy to, but maybe after we deal with the fire." Ronus hadn't looked back at the muddy brisket since he stabbed the halfling for the last time, and was surprised to see that the fire was eating away at the porch and parts of the taproom. He could see the heads of patrons slowly and carefully peeking out from behind the bar within. "Taguren, can you clean up your mess?" "Certainly." Taguren the elf rose to the occasion, casting small cooling spells here and there. "Now then," Ronus gestured towards the Dragonborn. "Dreddfire took the brunt of the beating, it appears." "Right." Carrot was annoyed that he had to prove himself. But he was sent here to help this Dragonborn, it would appear. He placed his hands on the broken knee of Dreddfire and chanted, "Finro Remura," and the sounds of bone-rubbing cartilage crescendoed before suddenly dissipating into silence. Within the minute, Taguren had extinguished the fire and had walked over to the undead corpse. As the elf walked over, Carrot could see in his eyes a curiosity that burned far brighter than his own. The elf appeared fair in complexion with freckles of reflective silver just beneath the skin. Taguren appeared confident and inquisitive as he knelt beside the corpse to study it. Then he stood and spoke. "I'll need some time to cast a spell to see what arcana created this beast." Taguren began pacing to measure out a circle around the body and opened a thick, leather-bound book that he kept in his cloak. While Taguren worked outside by the landing of the shallow porch stairs, Ronus stood in the doorway of the tavern that no longer burned and spoke to whom Carrot assumed to be the owner. They seemed familiar, Carrot thought. Though the halfling owner was very upset, Ronus seemed to speak words that calmed him down, if only for a moment. Ogletop said you have 10 minutes, and then we are never to return. Ronus had a hint of remorse in his voice, especially as the word never left his lips. Well, Taguren, Carrot found he could finally ask a question, though it would only scratch with a feather the unkempt itch of curiosity that filled him. What have you found? I am sensing a great necrotic energy emanating. Yes, I could have guessed that this halfling was undead. No, not from the little one. The source appears to be emanating from there. Taguren pointed at the fresh corpse of the fallen peasant girl who was brutally murdered by the undead beast. Now that Taguren had mentioned it, Carrot focused and found that he too could feel the presence. He reached into his large and mostly empty travel pack and pulled out a flask. As though Taguren could read his mind, the elf spoke. If our experience with the Flame School taught us anything, we should douse these corpses with holy water. Aye, Carrot agreed, already uncorking his flask. He started with the halfling corpse, a tablespoon which sizzled and seemed to wither the corpse even further into a pile of ash. When he poured the water onto the girl's corpse, however, nothing happened. At least nothing that Carrot could see. Suddenly, Taguren took off running from the corpse faster than his thin frame appeared capable of. The previously calculating elf was running wildly and yelling, Ronus, in dread, on horse, hurry! The two paladins quickly mounted their unhitched horses and rode after Taguren, quickly closing the distance. Dreddfire took the lead, and as though they rehearsed, Taguren held up his hand to catch Dreddfire's, as the Dragonborn rode by, never slowing down. The careful collision caused Taguren to pendulum up and over the rider Dreddfire and land seated behind him upon the mount. Together they continued to ride. Carrot could no longer make sense of the words that Taguren shouted as the three riders on their two horses flew further and further away, before they could entirely disappear behind the buildings of the winding city road. Carrot took a breath and ran.